What if a grieving father became so dangerous that he brought an entire city to its knees while sitting behind bars in a prison cell? This is the story of Clyde Shelton, the man who proved that even the most ordinary, law-abiding citizen can transform into the deadliest adversary when the system fails him. The story begins on what should have been a peaceful, perfect family evening. Clyde Shelton is at home, tinkering with small projects like he often does. His daughter, bright-eyed and curious, has inherited his love for creating things. She's making a bracelet for her father, carefully threading beads with childlike determination, and already planning to make one for her mother. The warmth of the home feels secure, filled with laughter and quiet conversations, the kind of atmosphere that makes life feel safe and predictable. But as Clyde's wife asks him to open the front door, the fragile illusion of safety shatters forever. The moment he opens that door, he is violently struck down. Two intruders burst inside, burglars, predators, men who see not a family, but an opportunity. They tie Clyde's hands, ransack the house, and begin a nightmare that will leave scars deeper than any wound. Darby, the dominant, sadistic leader, makes his presence known with ruthless cruelty and utters to Clyde, "You can't fight fate," right before stabbing him. His accomplice, Rupert, is nervous, hesitant, clearly not prepared for the brutality about to unfold. But hesitation is irrelevant. The nightmare continues regardless. Clyde, bound and helpless, is forced to watch the unthinkable. His wife is raped. His child wanders into the room, innocent and unaware, only to become another victim of their violence. The man who dedicated his life to protecting and building is powerless to stop his world from being ripped apart before his very eyes. And then, silence. A silence heavier than death itself. The case falls into the hands of prosecutor Nick Rice, a man ambitious, intelligent, but guided less by justice and more by results. He is young, career-driven, and prides himself on his ability to secure convictions. But here, faced with a horrific crime, Nick chooses not the path of full justice, but the path of expediency. Because in courtrooms, evidence rules over truth. A judge rules that key DNA evidence is inadmissible. Without it, Nick fears losing the case, and in his mind, losing is unacceptable. So instead of risking trial, he strikes a deal. The man who led the attack, Darby, is offered a mere handful of years in prison in exchange for testifying against his partner, Rupert. The weaker accomplice, painted as the main culprit, is sentenced to death. On paper, it looks like a win. In reality, it is betrayal. Clyde, already broken, pleads for true justice. He begs Nick, the prosecutor, not to make this deal. But Nick Rice does not listen. He utters the words that will echo through every act that follows. Some justice is better than no justice at all. For Clyde, that sentence is more than betrayal. It is the spark of transformation. It is the moment a grieving father becomes something else entirely. 10 years have passed. Nick Rice thrives in his career, respected, promoted, still chasing statistics and wins. He's a husband, a father now, though his work often pulls him away from his family. He misses recitals, sacrifices time, and believes it's all for the greater good. The execution of Rupert arrives. The death sentence is carried out by lethal injection, a process designed to be swift, sterile, and painless. But this time, it is not. The man convulses, screams, and dies in agony. Something went terribly wrong. Something was tampered with. And the message is clear. This was no accident. The words, once spoken by the sadistic killer, resurface, scrawled as a chilling signature. You can't fight fate. The authorities suspect Darby, the man who received the lenient sentence, but Darby is no mastermind, and soon it becomes clear who is really behind this spectacle. Darby himself is drawn into a trap. Lured by phone calls, by manipulation, he finds himself captured, and waiting for him is the very man he wronged, Clyde Shelton. What follows is a slow, methodical dismantling. Clyde ensures that Darby experiences pain beyond imagination. He explains, not with words but with precision, what it feels like to be helpless, and then, piece by piece, he ends him. Darby's remains are discovered later, dismembered, scattered, and gruesome, and investigators realize the only man with motive, means, and opportunity, Clyde. But when they arrive to arrest him, Clyde does not flee. He does not resist. He greets them calmly, almost warmly, as though this, too, was part of a greater plan, because prison is not his punishment. It is his fortress. Inside interrogation rooms, Clyde plays a game of intellect with Nick. He confesses, but never directly. He admits, but never in a way admissible in court. Every statement is crafted, every pause intentional. He makes demands, absurd at first, like a new bed in his cell, a steak dinner, an iPod. To Nick, these demands seem arrogant, ridiculous.
Make the deal.
But to Clyde, they are calculated steps in a plan 10 years in the making. When those demands are met late, the consequences unfold with deadly precision. A defense attorney vanishes, only to be found buried alive. A judge is killed by an exploding phone. Car bombs reduce entire teams of prosecutors to ash. All of it orchestrated from inside a cell. The truth begins to dawn on investigators. Clyde has spent the past decade preparing for this exact moment. The message is clear. He wants the system to burn, the same system that undermined the heinous crime done to Clyde and his family. The city of Philadelphia descends into chaos. Martial law is declared. Officials tremble, unsure who will be targeted next. And all the while, Clyde sits calmly in his cell, pulling strings like a puppeteer, and no one can prove Clyde is behind the mayhem. As bodies pile up, Nick begins to understand the true lesson Clyde is teaching. It was never just about revenge. It was about exposing the flaws of a justice system built on deals, shortcuts, and compromises. A system where winning matters more than truth. Clyde wanted Nick and the entire system to feel what he felt, to be helpless, to watch as everything they valued crumbled before their eyes, and to know they could do nothing to stop it. And yet, even as the city collapses, Clyde offers one final ultimatum: release him by morning, or more lives will be lost. Nick refuses, but this time he doesn't refuse out of arrogance. He refuses because he has finally begun to learn. Clyde prepares to unleash his deadliest plan yet, the bombing of City Hall during an emergency meeting of top officials. It would be his masterpiece. But Nick anticipates him. He realizes Clyde has bought properties surrounding the prison. He dug tunnels. He built a command center beneath the very walls meant to contain him. He follows the trail to Clyde's underground command center and executes a countermove worthy of the master himself. When Clyde returns to his prison cell about to detonate the bomb, Nick is there. Clyde asks Nick if he's there to make one last deal with him. Nick answers that he finally understood what Clyde has been trying to teach him and says, "I don't make deals with murderers anymore, Clyde." When Clyde arms the bomb, believing he is about to annihilate the corrupt leaders, he discovers too late that the bomb is not where he placed it. Nick has moved it under Clyde's very bed. Clyde sits, realizing what has happened. For a moment, there is no anger, no fear, only the faintest sense of pride, because his student, the prosecutor who once failed him, finally learned. The cell erupts in fire, and with it, the chapter of Clyde Shelton comes to a close. Law-Abiding Citizen is a brutal exploration of justice, morality, and the cost of compromise. And it leaves us with a haunting question. How fragile is the line between justice and vengeance? And when the system protects the guilty instead of the innocent, what would you do? Would you abide by the law? Or would you become the law's reckoning? Comment your thoughts below. If stories like this make you question justice, morality, and the thin line between right and wrong, stay tuned.